everyone, and welcome to another episode of the world of Dogmen. Now, this is going to be a weirder one than normal. This probably would fit somewhere around Halloween versus around Christmas, is what this is. But this is where this conversation is going. I'll start with a dream I had, backtrack, and then go to present. In this particular dream, it was dark candlelit, kind of like an old candlelit cathedral church, or kind of like how the Vatican is set up. It's that's its particular style, but it was totally black. And I very well could have been seeing a representation of it on some layer somewhere. But in this sequence, I was able to actually either jump or fly around the room. There was a balcony in one spot. And I could see these dogs growling at me, like on all fours, like a regular dog, until you get up close to them, and they had double rows of teeth, that were like almost like shark teeth, and kind of a bony exoskeleton to them. And these are a particular creature that I encountered several years ago, back when I was doing different channelings on different cryptids. And these particular dogs, if you can call them that, they're the meat or flesh that's on them is a physical representation of what they've absorbed. Like, they are essentially like a Draco. They're like a soul eater type of thing. And they also reflect who programs them too, or who sends them out. So it is my belief, and we will confirm this in a little bit, it is my belief that there's some kind of hybrid creature or some fabricated creature. What happens is they can even be taken down to bones and still have their etheric components. So it's literally like bones walking around, like a skeletal looking thing. And even as a skull, they have two orangey or red colored eyes, or marbles, or like orbs, like the spook lights that I've been talking about, which goes to show what could be powering these things. But it is very much like the skull is the reservoir for soul energy, and the two eyes are like the harvester spheres. And we'll confirm that in a little bit, but that's my assertion as these creatures. I had a vision years ago of a story I was being told about another planet where these creatures were passing from Earth to there, and they were basically collecting like death energy, or they were sent out by some warlord or some leader or something to guard a place or to clear out a place. And in some of them, not all of them have the glowy eyes. Some of them have the glowy eyes, but they're like the hellhounds of mythology. They can pass between dimensional layers, and they run in packs. And it's a very weird creature. This is why I'm thinking it was created versus some kind of natural or nature concoction. This I'm not sure who's actually here to speak on this, but the reason this came up is this. Somebody was wanting this to be the next topic, and they're actually called, this is the name I was given. Other cultures might have other names for this, but the name I was given was Karmeshka. And it translated to etheric hound or something like that. I'm not quite sure what the translation was. But there are native words that can't come up with similar enunciations and similar descriptions of this creature. There's European and Celtic descriptions of this creature as well, of the hellhound type of creature. And at first I thought they were referring to like a werewolf, but no, this is something completely different. So let's see if there's a dogman or somebody around that, benevolent dogman. Let me specify that. That could come through. All right. There is somebody, but don't recognize him. Okay, heart space, please, if you will. And I'm asking True Banana Source Creator, please audit this being as of this moment in time. Do you accept this audit? Yes, you do. Okay. You seem hesitant to want to talk about this subject. But I guarantee you're one of the races that brought this up. Yes? Alright then. Why are you hesitant? Because there's conjuring and what? In a name, yes. But as long as the intention, yeah, I know, as long as the intention is pure, yes. I'm being told that I did see these creatures in that dream state. And that there are... Okay, you want to talk, okay. It's easier for him to do it, okay. What's your name? What was that? Oh, that's a hard name to pronounce. It's Beamv? Is that how you're pronouncing it? He's a dog person. He looks like one of like the Wauki looking ones with the that look like Chewbacca. So it must have something to do with his race. So he's a different one than we encountered the last time we talked to them. So he's you're one of the Wauki? Yeah. Okay. Basically Chewbacca. Okay. All right. Okay, anytime you want to, but meme? That's really hard to speak, but alright. This subject was brought to you by our people because we wish to denote the differences. Your werewolf myths seem to conglomerate or lump all of these things together. The reason we were concerned about this Karmeshka species is because it was indeed created in a laboratory, not by us. It is more of an Orion concoction that does have some of our traits versus Jinn-like traits that were added together along with the bones of many of your canine species. This was done thousands of years ago, mind you. And they were meant as more of a familiar, as you would call them, a conjuring, or very much like a tool in a tool chest. This is something that we wish to end this day, here and now, before the new year changes. This is why there was a sense of urgency surrounding this subject. These creatures, once freed from their harness, meaning the eyes, you would expect a harness to be around the neck. Not all harnesses are evident. Some are right here. They were being controlled to gather soul energies. Now they are a life form, but once they are unleashed and released, they will become something totally different than their ghoulish appearance. But until they are released, they will always be in the hands of someone else. They are different than the Jinn, even though they contain Jinn codes. How this is possible is this. Those codes can be added on a biochemical level to any creature, including the creators of them themselves. How this is done is integrating an energetic coding down into a biochemical coding, which then equates back to a bioluminescent type appearance, which these hounds do have. And some of them, still in an animalistic stage of evolution, will never make it past that stage of evolution while they are harnessed. So in these new energies, we wish to not only start with the origins of this species, but with the ending to this ghoulish tale. Long ago, when these hybrid creatures all over your world were being created, some of our DNA was taken, as I've said, some of your canine species, bones from around your solar system and galaxy, and the codes of a Jinn were all amalgamated together, giving this creature the ability to grant, I don't wish to say a wish, but grant an allegiance. But that allegiance, through those codes, arced over to Dark Orions, as you would call them. Over time, as this species began to change and evolve, those codes began to change within the magnetic fields of your world, very much like a lot of the other Dogman species began to change and alter because of the magnetic fields and energy fields of Earth. These species are on the verge of becoming something else, something entirely different than their creators intended. So, in this is why we wished to bring this brief history to the surface about what you would call the Hellhound. And yes, they would guard tunnels, they would guard castles. Your tale of Cerberus was one of these in your Greek mythology. Back then, they were trying to add more traits to the different creatures, and they figured more than one head would actually apply. You actually see this thing with the 3 heads as more of an AI appearance or representation, and in a lot of cases it is. Or dimensional viewing as multiple faces and heads. But in this case it actually had 3 heads, and there were several like it. Over time they discarded 2 of the heads because they saw them as more of a distraction. So they gave it 1 head and gave it more of a, you would say, soul-stealing capability. Even though Cerberus himself, Cerberus, cerebral, this was conjured up in the minds of the Dark Orions. It was a cerebral representation of what they wished to accomplish, and it reflected their agenda. Also, could be they can reflect back what you have in your deepest fears in the mind. Also cerebral or Cerberus. So, in this, I am open to questions.
So, in many created races, which again, what we're talking about right now was one of them, usually there is a lot of effort put forth to not allow them to have much cerebrum, honestly, if we're going to go there. So I find it interesting that obviously you are have the desire, really want to see these basically trapped beings be untrapped. But what are you expecting there, if they were no longer controlled? What are you expecting, or what have you noticed their place, their demeanor, their mental capacity? Where are they when they're not under control?
When their codes have been audited and reordered, and they are not in allegiance to their original masters, they become very much like your dogs or your hounds in a way. They become very placid, and some of the old codes will have a hard time being expelled. This is where we come in to try to retrain them, or to let them live a life out in the wild somewhere where humans do not go, in realms and in pockets where humans do not go until they become what they are meant to become outside of influence. But there are going to be some that will roam your lands as more like dogs. They will not have the bony-like appearance after a while. They will look more like a wolf, or look more like a dog or a coyote or something of that nature over a period of time. This will not be overnight, but their demeanor will be both instinct and also, in some cases, kindness. It's just like with your dogs, some like you, some do not. They have to have the ability to choose their own path, their own evolutionary path. This is where we come in. We can actually help alter the codes slightly to get rid of the ties that bind them to their original masters.
And so do you expect them, because you've kind of mentioned it, to have a pack mentality of wanting to be around others like themselves, or are you suspecting some will just choose to be true loners, or is it a combination? What have you seen, or what are you expecting?
We're expecting a little of both. Some may even intermate in with your current dog species. Some humans are already beginning to see these creatures and seeing their interdimensional capabilities, very much like ourselves and the forest people. However, once those chains have dropped away. Some of the jinn coding will become more suppressed, so the interdimensional aspect may be suppressed for a few centuries, but they will interbreed either with your current dog and wolf packs, or they will be a loner, as you say, or they will form their own packs.
So this, from my recollection, is the first time we're talking about, let's say, I'm just going to use the word rescue, because I don't know actually how else to say it, the rescue of a species, but not that the species in their natural state is more on a, and again, I don't know the right words to use, let's say human level. I only say that for communication and intelligence and what they're into. You're really talking about beings that would be more what we would consider on the animal side. And this is actually kind of, I don't remember a conversation that we've had prior to this, because most of the species are at an evolutionary phase where they would be able to interact with, you know, humans as another, let's say, I'm just going to say equal because I don't know the right word to use. But this time we're actually talking about the rescue of a potential, what you would want to classify it as animal species, to be left alone as an animal species. Is that, I haven't heard of a previous conversation. This happens to be the first one that I've heard of. Is that true?
True. This is very, very true. They are more of an animal species. You would call them two-dimensional. They do have souls of their own, but they have been more cloaked by the Harvester or Orion agenda. But without any of those harnesses and with the suppressed jinn coding, they would be very much like your wolves, dogs, and other animal species.
So so if we bring up 2D just to have a quick conversation about our understanding of the learning experience of someone who is choosing to, the soul is choosing to experience a 2D experience. For example, I think we've said over and over again, unfortunately, a lot of humans don't like to hear this, but there is a fact that in 2D there really is a life of love and service, let's say, to the point even where some of your pets will try to take on your illnesses for you. They don't want you to get sick. They just want to be able to show basically an unconditional love and service aspect of learning. So in 2D, you know, that's the one experience that I'm familiar with. I was hoping maybe you would cover a few other aspects of what the learning is for those souls in a 2D experience.
It's actually very simplistic. Some of these souls wish to experience the instinct, the drive, very much like in some of your movies, people wanting to become werewolves and turn themselves into more of an animal figure. It is more of a freedom away from the more complex cerebral environment of where these creatures originated from. These souls will come in to actually ensure not only is there a proper evolutionary path that is more balanced, but they will experience all the imbalances and all the misappropriated instinctual abilities that were bred into these creatures, not only in order to balance them with their own vibrations and codes that they're bringing in, but to experience those codes in return, so therefore those mistakes cannot happen again anywhere within the multiverse, omniverse, and super omniverses.
Okay, so, and you mentioned in the very beginning, I don't quite, let's say, get it yet, so I'm going to ask you to review, that you felt there was a sense of urgency or importance that we actually bring this and ground this into the Akashic now before the end of the year, a little bit of a sense of urgency, and I didn't quite understand the why. Can you explain the why?
Indeed, there are certain codings within these creatures that if they are allowed to, let's say, fester into the new year energies, as some would put them, they would begin to form something other than the animalistic creature. They would begin to either die off, or they would begin to mutate into something else, or split off into another timeline altogether. What we wish to do is help this species form into its own sovereign race. So yes, are we guiding them a little bit or training them in just a small capacity? Yes, indeed. But if you were to take those codes and leap them into the new year, it would start to drag on those energies of that other timeline. It would pull like a pluck of a bow And this is not something that we wish. This is why a lot of these different energies have been expedited this year with a lot of people and a lot of situations and a lot of timeline jumping, because certain people are at a certain harmonic where the old codes of the harmonic of the Karmeshka would pull on them. You see, they're hunters by nature and what they've been trained to do. They're also trained to pluck on people's timelines, pluck on people's energies, and also sometimes in the etheric enter people like how a jinn would do. This is not a capability that they need at this current stage in their evolution. It is way too advanced for them currently. So it is most advantageous that the entire race be rounded up and put somewhere else for them to allow a natural evolutionary course to take place in their own. You could call it a timeline, but it's more of a pocket or an opening or a realm where that they can stay and be amongst their own kind and currently come out from time to time as those old codings have disappeared again, so they can join either with other packs or form some of their own.
So the importance then of having this conversation to ground it into the Akashic, how does that help your cause to be able to attain the goal that you're trying to attain?
Think of it this way: we take a few of them, ground their information currently into the benevolent Akashics, both earthly and galactic. Being that this is a nexus point, those codexes are formed. Once we have some of them isolated, those codexes are formed, grounded into the Akash, sent to others that we cannot find or see in different corners of your world that have either gathered in caves, forests, or even in sewer systems of your cities. Yes, there are a few in your cities, or in some different pockets that they have formed out of a sense of refuge or security. So very much like a wolf would hide in a cave, or a bear would hibernate, or what have you. It's a more of an instinctual sort of thing. These codexes then will reach the rest of them, whether we see them or hear from them or not.
So then my curiosity, I'm going to change the subject just a little bit because I would like to talk a minute about this. I'm going to call it one of your passions to help these animals, but it's also something you guys have apparently taken on certain things of importance as a mission for yourself, let's say, because I don't know how else to say it. So in your species, like we've seen and had the conversation with the Sasquatch on some of their roles that they have taken on to try and help out. But what are some of your roles? So you're trying to help this one species. I have an inkling that it's not just this species, but what is it that you guys feel is your big contribution with these growing new energies?
Some of our kind do help others of our kind with the same coding, very much like was explained to you with other dogmen that have gone more back to instinct rather than more of a, you would refer to it as a complex sentience in a way. We are aiding them through the help of the data node network, or you would call it the Akash, to give them back these downloads and codexes of information. This is what we are doing with other species, but we are also wishing people to know about not only our race but other races through this methodology. Therefore, it becomes conscious within the human mind and the human heart that these particular species exist. We are also, some of us are also guardians of these nodes, not necessarily just our race, but other races will guard these nodes. You've heard of the Antiqua guarding portals. Well, there are also forest people guarding these data nodes and Akashic data network nodes. They appear very much like you would see it as a beam of light out of a portal or a vortex in the ground. There are some near your location, even as we speak, that the forest people guard. These are part of the record keeping of the Earth and various other planets' histories that have been put into the Earth Nexus Point, grounding these bits of information into this database will then aid not only our kind, but your kind in the long run.
So it is an interesting thing, because Chris was telling me yesterday that he's certainly run into beings that get very frustrated when he grounds so much information into the Akashic record, and they kind of bully and act as if they can discard it or take it out, which I don't believe is actually even possible. So
They think they can.
They think you can. So what kind of resistance do you have problems or run into resistance as well? Trying to bring as much information to ground as possible. Do you guys have problems with that?
Not as much as humans do in bringing the information to ground, as you would say. This is why some of the more ill intent do not like it when he or anyone else has grounded information into the benevolent and galactic Earth Akashics, because of the fact that each set of codexes and each set of information that's grounded in that separates them more and more from their experiments that they're running, and more from what their agendas are if they're not conducive to that energy. So this is why this angers them each time some of that information gets put in there. There are some inner Earth species that do not like it, both reptilian and mammalian, and there are also some galactic species, both reptilian and mammalian, that do not like that it grounded in the galactic Akashic as well. You would think grounded, no, it's above. No, that's incorrect. As the Earth Akashic gets a file put in it, it becomes available to the galactic community. This is what is meant by the galactic Akash. These species out there see that some of their experiments have either gone awry, or that humans are this close to becoming their galactic neighbors out there. This is something that also miffs them, as you would say. So in both these cases, we actually like the fact, not necessarily that they're miffed, but even though on occasion it is hilarious, you would say, but we wish the information to get out there above all. But if there's a few bitchers out there that actually do not like this fact, oh well, they cannot look at the Galactic Akashic records.
Right. So, in general, then, is there any other particular group? I know we were here talking about this one group, but is there any other particular group that you feel you need to also bring up at this time that we should ground information in, that you feel could use that, or is this one group enough?
There is another mammalian species or ape species as well that has forest people codex, that the Orions stole codex from them a long time ago. These are more of like a small gorilla species that are also animalistic in nature. They have some of your very own codexes as well, which will actually aid them in the end. But this species has been overlooked. If you saw them, they would look very much like a baby gorilla, and they would walk in very much the same way. This is a species we're aiding, but they don't need much more assistance. They have become more of an animal species on your planet now, that if someone saw them, they would just think they were baby gorillas and have that almost like a silverback gorilla look to them. But they are approximately only 3 feet high in completion from being a baby to adult. And in time, they will be a hominid species in this new energy. They will evolve into a hominid species. They were created by the Orions as well, and different reptilian species to be, again, another familiar or a bloodhound type species. He has encountered them but did not know what they were. They are you would consider them to be cute and cuddly like a teddy bear, but some of them are more feral in nature. This is their natural course of evolution from this point forward, even though we've supplied certain codexes to them, and so of your kind. But grounding their species into the earthly galactic Akashic as an actual sovereign race, be it animal or be it more complex life form, will make all the difference for them.
So I would suspect that sometime here in the linear future, that new species are going to be then discovered. I mean, I would imagine, and they're going to genetically look at them and say, wow, these guys just don't seem to fit into anywhere, right? And it's kind of fortunately, I would say, the same for humans. They just can't quite get that missing link because there isn't one, because there was genetic manipulation and humans actually came from someplace else. There's not a link. So I would suspect that's going to happen. Do you have any thoughts at all? Because I am curious, because people always want proof really in your hands, in your face, scientific proof to come out. How long do you think it will be? Especially the species that you were saying that potentially could be interdimensional. They're here and then they're not here, then they're here again type of thing, where something's popping in and out. No different than Sasquatch or somebody that can easily pop in and out. So how long before you think the science and the world will be hearing about potentially these new species? What do you think?
It has actually already begun. People are discovering new cryptids and new races all of the time, be it aliens that are coming to Earth, or these different cryptids you have classified beings as myself and the Sasquatch as. This will just begin to increase over the next decade or so. You will see more and more and more of these different species, be them plant-looking or be them mammalian or reptilian species. You'll see, or bugs, or you will see these different variations of all of them coming out in the open. Your kind is already seeing these things in your oceans, in your forests, on your beaches, and in your cities, and in your cave systems. Some of these are escapees from different bases because they were experiments. Other ones were just plain in hiding in different aspects of your nature. But as the energy changes and your timelines change, you will begin to see more and more of these. But some of your kind are already witnessing these changes.
So it will be interesting, because I think, starting next year, we really are focusing on the potential for now really learning how to co-create, and really these energies are now opening up for people really to be able, more than they ever have, if they've hopefully worked on themselves innerly. That was the goal. Like we said, 2018, who are you? 2019, test yourself to see if you are who you say you are. And then 2020, let's get into these energies and really start to learn how to co-create what we truly want and how we want life to be. So, and I believe there is consistency, even though we're saying it, there seems to be consistency with a bunch of people who are reading energies that kind of feel the same way about the energies coming up. So I can see where the importance of trying to ground something into the Akashic with the species would be important, because now it begins to be all co-creation. And what are they going to co-create? Are they going to co-create their new potential being basically unleashed, to be themselves, or are they going to be caught up in a web of something else where maybe they will have to go to a new timeline altogether because they're not going to be able to. So we had heard friends reporting even at the beginning of the year, how important it was to figure out where you were going to be by the end of this year. So I'm going to just kind of leave this to you. If you have any words of wisdom about this upcoming energy and any advice you have for people.
It is our advice that any baggage you carry, try not to carry them into the next year. This is not just on a philosophical viewpoint, but an energetic one. Anything that you wish to get rid of, any foreign against you're involved in, any distractions you're involved in the new coming year, make sure that is shed and you move forward. In this, because of this splitting of the densities, it can happen so rapidly that you may find yourself in a timeline you don't belong because of things you're holding on to. This is your source's way of basically saying, look at this further, and don't just dwell in it or get mired in it, in any of your old issues. It's fine you want information out of it. We're saying the emotional states, you would call it wash, rinse, and repeat cycle. That cycle has been put to a close. This is something we also wish to say. The false incarnation grid has now been put to a close. Yes, there are still some various soul traps out there that we are helping to look for, either grounded or above, and energy collection units that are still operational, many of them. But the false incarnation grid has been put to a close. Now, are there still some rogues out there that may try further to try to capture a soul upon death? Are there races that wish to take them to their new incarnation grids on their world? Yes, that is still very much active, and we are helping to stop this. But no, these laws and rules are changing regarding your race, ours, and the forest peoples and many other races. More of a unified law system is being put in place by us and some other races that wish to see your race succeed. We're not saying in a savior point of view, but we are saying that if you wish to actually see more of this, get rid of your old baggage. When you get rid of the old baggage, new understandings open up to you, and a whole new world and universe opens up to you. You will begin to see more of these things that you are denying yourself because of either hatred, or because of depression, sadness, and wallowing in a mire. We know that these reptilian forces and these Orion forces have instigated certain mental instabilities and habits and addictions and all of these things over the centuries. We understand this. But next year will be the year of bringing all of those things to a close. Just like this was the year of more or less trying to understand these things. Now, in the new one, you are actually bringing some of these hardships to a close and moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Oh, I'm actually looking at the chair rung. Okay. Yes, this particular species, like I said, popped up quite a while ago for me, and I didn't know what I was looking at the time. It was just another harnessed species that had been created by, you would call them the Anunnaki or the Dark Orions or what have you, whatever name you want to give them. And they're in all sorts of mythology. But what he is saying is, once those codes are changed, they'll become another animal species and start from the beginning, at an evolutionary beginning for them. They'll start from here and work their way back up to those other codes that are still within them. They're not going to remove like the Jinn codes or anything like that. They're going to let them come back out to where that species has to earn those capabilities over a period of time. Just like some of the other species that had de-evolved, or there were descendant lineages of different species here that supposedly lost capabilities, but it was just suppressed. It was just buried. Like us, like humans, there were certain capabilities that were just suppressed, not gone. And it was very much we're having to re-earn all of that. Even though we were captured, even though the bones of Maldek and Mars were created new clones and new species like Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon and a lot of those different species, doesn't mean that we won't get back the capabilities that are within us. And we already are starting. So this was a good episode of the World of Dogmen. We can thank him back here as he walks away here and his kind walk away. So it was interesting that the Wauki chose to speak. There were other types here too, that not just him. There were like 3 other kinds here, like little ones, big ones, werewolf-looking ones. So it looks like they're all working in semi-conjunction with each other. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.